Hi guys, welcome back to Symbolic Logic Part 10. We are taking reference of Symbolic Logic 5th edition, which was written by Irving M. Gopi from the University of Hawaii. Today, we are going to see about Venn diagrams. Yeah, it is a testing we use to test the syllogisms. Venn diagram is a technique we follow to find if the syllogism is valid or invalid. So, when it comes to valid or invalid, we have two possibilities. Is the data given in the conclusion already depicted in the finally achieved Venn diagram? If yes, then the argument is valid. If no, then the argument is invalid. We will be seeing and have a deep understanding about it when we study about the example, when we solve the examples. So, now let's see how to draw the Venn diagram. We already seen this Venn diagram in categorical proposition with the two circles, but in syllogisms we will be having three circles to draw a Venn diagram. So let's see how to draw a Venn diagram. In order to test a categorical syllogism using Venn diagrams, one must first represent both of its premises in one diagram. This is the first rule, and that requires drawing three overlapping circles, two premises of standard form syllogism which contain three different terms: minor term, major term, and middle term, which we abbreviate as S, P, and M respectively. And the third is we label these three circles S, P, and M in the standard form order. So, how to draw the Venn diagram? To make it simple, we will be drawing three circles, and each circle denotes the three terms. That is major term, minor term, and the conclusion. We simply call it as subject, predicate, and middle term. So the area of S is the one which is covered by red, and the area of P is the one which covered with green, respectively. The M as blue, and the middle region, right? It is a mix of SP and the P, SP and M. So in the middle part we will be having SPM, and it's to the left we will have SM, and to the right we have PM, and at the top we have SP. So, with the help of an example, we will be understanding how to draw it easily. So, example number one: no nuclear power submarines are commercial vehicles. All nuclear power submarines are warships. Therefore, no warships are commercial vehicles. This example is the first one. So, is the example one a syllogism first? If we prove it is a syllogism or not, then only we can tell it is valid or invalid. So let's find, is it a syllogism or not, in the first for the first. So how to find it? So to find it is a syllogism or not, we can check it by using the rules. But if it is a syllogism, then we need to find out it is the valid or invalid using the Venn diagram. So, no nuclear power submarines are commercial vehicles. We need to check, do we have two premises and one conclusion? This is the first rule, and the conclusion must be derived from the first two premises, which is valid here. We have premise 1, premise 2, and the conclusion which is derived from the premise 1 and 2. So the first condition is true. Now let's check the second condition. Second condition is what? We will be having three terms which is repeated twice. As you can see, we have three terms which are repeated twice. So the second rule is also followed. So it is true. Number third is we need to check if it is in standard form or not. So if you see here, we have found the subject, predicate, and the middle term. You already know how to find it. If not, check out the previous video. And with the help of that, we have found it, which is a major premise and minor premise. So it is in the order of major premise, minor premise, and conclusion. So the third is also valid. So next, the fourth rule is what we will be checking if it belongs to the propositions or not. So the first premise belongs to E type, and the second belongs to A type, which is universal affirmative, and the third belongs to the E type. So it is following the categorical proposition. So we can confirm that it is a syllogism. Since we found it is a syllogism, let's check with the Venn diagram if this syllogism is valid or not. So, we will be taking the premise 1, which is no nuclear power submarines are commercial vehicles. This is the premise 1. We took the premise 1. As we know, nuclear power submarines is the middle term because it never is the middle term because it didn't appear in the conclusion. And commercial vehicles is the predicate because in the conclusion commercial vehicles is the predicate. So as we mark the Venn diagram, if you see the proposition Venn diagram, that means two circles, no SSP, we will be shading the middle part, which indicates there are no one in that region. So we are for taking an we are following the categorical proposition Venn diagrams in the syllogisms too. So MP, as you see, yeah, no M is P. So if you take the circles of M and P, we will be shading the middle part, which indicates no M is P. Okay, let's take a look at premise 2. All nuclear power submarines are warships. Where nuclear power submarines is the middle term, warship is the subject. So, it belongs to A type. All nuclear power submarines are warship, which is all SSP. If you take the circle of M and S, all M is S. So, there are no one in the M region. Everyone is in the S region. So, we will be shading the M part. So, let's take a look at the conclusion. Therefore, no warships are commercial vehicles. Where warship is the subject and commercial vehicles is the predicate. This is in the form of no SSP. That is E type. No SSP. We will be no all like no S is in the P. So we'll be marking the region between S and P. So let's see the conclusion. We can see P1, P2 and marking both the P1 and P2 in the conclusion and also concluding the and also shading the conclusion part. We get what you are getting. The shaded, the premise 1 and premise 2 is not covering the conclusion. So we can see it is invalid. If P1 and P2 is equal to the conclusion, then it is valid. Let's take a look at example 2. Here, no heroes are covered, some soldiers are covered. Therefore, some soldiers are not heroes is the second example. First, we need to find it is a syllogism or not. Then, if it is a syllogism, then we need to find out it is valid or invalid. How to find the syllogism? We will be finding it by rules. Whereas, to find out it is valid or not, we will be performing Venn diagram. So, let's take a look at premise 1. Oh, sorry. Let's see if it is a syllogism or not. So the first rule is we will be checking the premises and conclusion. In syllogism, we will be the first rule is we must contain two premises and one conclusion, and the conclusion must be derived from the first two premises. As you see, we got two premises and one conclusion, and the conclusion is derived from the first two premises. So it is a syllogism. This rule shows it is a syllogism. If we take the second rule, we need to check. The second rule is we need to check that we should have three terms and the three terms should be repeated twice. As you can see here, there are three terms and it is repeated twice. So the second rule is confirmed. So if you take a look at the third rule, we must confirm if it is following the proposition or not. If you see no heroes are covered belongs to E type proposition, some soldiers are covered belongs to I type proposition. Therefore, some soldiers are not heroes belongs to O type proposition, which shows this is following the proposition. So the third rule is also proved. And the fourth rule is we need to check if it is in standard form or not. For that, we need to find the minor term, major term, and middle term. How we will find the minor, major, and middle term? So, first we will take the conclusion. The sentence which contains therefore or so is the conclusion sentence. So, in the conclusion sentence, we need to find subject and predicate. In this conclusion, the subject is soldiers and predicate is hero. And in the conclusion, the subject will be the minor term and predicate will be the major term. So we found the minor term as soldiers and major term as heroes. The term which never appears in the conclusion but appears in the premises. First two premises is the middle term. So covers is the middle term. So, how we found the major premise and minor premise? So, the premise which contains the major term is the major premise. So, which premise contains heroes? The first premise contains heroes. So, it is the major premise. Which premise contains soldiers? The second premise contains soldiers. So, it is the minor premise. And as usual, the sentence which has therefore is the conclusion. So what is standard form? Standard form means it must be in order of first major premise, second minor premise, and then conclusion. So this follows major premise, minor premise, and conclusion. So the fourth rule is also proved. So we can see it is a syllogism. Since we found out this example is a syllogism, let's check it is valid or invalid using the Venn diagram. So let's take a first premise. No heroes are cowards. No heroes are covered. So we are taking reference of proposition Venn diagrams. So if you see no S is P, no S is P, right? So here no M is P. So we will be shading the middle part of M and P. Here if you see we will be taking the circles, only two circles, M and P. We will be concentrating on only two circles, not the S part. So if you see the two circles, P and M, as per the proposition Venn diagrams, no P is M, we will be shading the middle part. Now let's take a look at the second premise. Some soldiers are cowards. So this belongs to the so it belongs to the third type, which is I. So if you see the Venn diagram, so some soldiers are cowards, which shows some S is M. So we will be putting the cross in the middle one. So in the premise, if we take premise 3 or conclusion, some soldiers are not heroes. Some soldiers are not heroes. So you'll be mark. So yes, some yes are not P. If we compare it with the proposition Venn diagram, so you'll be marking some yes is not P. So you're marking in the yes region. If we bring all the premises and two and check with the conclusion, what you can see, the premise 1 and premise 2 are marked in green and premise 3 is marked in red. The premise 1 and 2 is not equal to the premise 3. So, we can see this syllogism is also invalid. So, in the next video, we will be seeing about what are the valid syllogisms.